Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Portsmouth Coffee Talks Monday morning edition. And every day we rise is a great day to be alive. And I'm James Slim Overton, and I'm here with co-host Thomas the Colonel Chapman. We're waiting on Leah, and we have a guest host, Lewis Bracy. Hopefully, he'll come on later. We got the message, the email, but we had to start. So, good morning, Colonel.
Good morning, morning, morning. How you doing?
How you doing, man? Before we get into the subject, how did you enjoy that game last night, the women's college final?
Well, I'm glad you opened up with that. We have to celebrate the winners. We always celebrate the winners and give congratulations to the losers. What was Iowa? We also have to celebrate the another black coach winning another national championship. But we have to tell it like it is. That though that Don Daly, who is has roots back to UVA, won a national championship as a black coach, set back women's rights, voting rights, and all black right and minority rights back another decade. For she is the front of another white institution making tens of millions of dollars for that white institution without speaking up for any of the rights that I just talked about. Not one time she said anything. Not one time. Uh, Her girls will go to the WNBA, have a nice career, 5-6 years or whatever, make some money, and they'll be left out in the street when they get done. Because, but if you look at the state of South Carolina and the rights of women and the rights of whether choking off the rights of black folks to vote, rights of women taken away from the abortion care, rights of women
exist.
just to get normal health, women's health care, all that stuff is in the balance, is actually being taken away from them. But not one time when you have the microphone have you said a thing. So I have to say, yes, kudos to winning national championship, but shame on you and your players, what you have done to the rights of the people in the state and actually across the nation. It's a shameful what they're doing. And it goes back to, and there's a tie between all of them. You look at down to LSU where they got on their big center, and she cried about how tough it is, cried all her crocodile tears. And before they came out for their final basketball meeting, they have a tradition of when the national anthem comes out, they stay back in the locker room getting a few more minutes of getting their strategy together. The legislatures in in Louisiana has the audacity to put up a bill to say we're going to take scholarships away from you because you are not standing for the flag, just back going against woke policies back in the Kaepernick age. No pushback from that. So these women, black women, because they're the ones in front of the cameras, and this is in all sports, in these segregated, in these Confederate programs across the country, set back us, and Martin Luther King would say, with shame, and turn their heads, and I turn my head to these schools and these athletes. So that's my piece for how it is.
Yeah, well, I never looked at it that way. I just enjoyed the game, what it is, a game. So maybe I'll look back at the political implications on it, and see your point, or maybe I won't. But I just never looked at that. I just looked at the game and enjoyed the game, and just celebrated, you know, the win. And it was just entertaining game to me, the way they played and kept it tight and everything. But like I said, I'll look at listen. I heard what you said.
Yes.
Because all that sort of comes into play when you think about women's rights and being in South Carolina, a state like it is. Sometimes you have to consider those things. But
well, let me say, we always have to consider it, all that, because no matter how big a contract, and Staley is rich. She is rich, ultra rich, when you compare the general population in South Carolina. But at the end of the day, she is Black. When she gets stopped, when she's driving on 95, but at the end 85 down there in South Carolina, and she gets stopped by one of those state troopers down there, she, rather than pulling out her ID driver's license and saying, I'm the coach of the women's basketball team at South Carolina, University of South Carolina, she's addressed by, you still Black girl. That's all I got to say, and that's across the nation.
Okay. Still trying to bring Lewis in here, but
yeah, bring him on in. See what he got to do.
Let me play this while I'm trying to get him in.
Conservatives exist to conserve the ideals of the American founding. These ideas are actually the source of our recovery. On January 20th, when the president puts his hand on the Bible, everything changes. Our goal is to ensure that the conservative administration that takes office in January 2025 is ready on day one.
The next conservative president will only be able to do so with your help.
The president of the Conservative Partnership Institute, Vice President of Hillsdale College,
the head of the Office of Justice Programs,
Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, Senior Advisor to the President,
Assistant Press Secretary.
You're here to cut government. You're here to do something that's not in their interest. The deep state is real. You want to be someone who knows answers. As a public servant, you're working on behalf of the American people, the greatest country on the planet. It's your job to ensure that that power is executed responsibly and in line with the president's will.
This is your chance to truly make a difference.
We're glad you're joining us.
Okay, that's the Project 2025, and of course, that's their plan. And we talked about it on here before. That's their plan to be ready whenever the next president gets in. I'm gonna let you go ahead and talk, because now I'm getting a call from Gracie, and I'm gonna have to put you up here.
Okay, while you get that together,
yeah.
So we have to understand what is the heritage organization, or the overriding heritage organization is. It is the most ultra conservative planning commission or organization across this nation. They are the ones that put these judges in front of Trump, and also actually put them in front of Mitch McConnell, who made the recommendations to Trump and who just blessed them off, because Trump wouldn't know a judge other than, if they're only crooked, only the Supreme Court judges. He knows those and how to get them in front of him, as long as he can get quick pro quo and protect him. So we have to understand what is the goal of the heritage in this 2025 presidential transition project. Its goal is shaping policies and decisions of Mr. Trump when they take over the federal government at 12:01 after their elected. And they say they have a mandate to actually what they call deconstruct the administrative state. But they're meaning they are going to tear down the federal government and everything that is good about it to almost turn it into a dictatorship and to shape policies to where they never leave office again. So what are some of their recommendations? And you have to read back and look at the underlying goals of what they want to do. They say they want to restore the integrity of the Justice Department to ensure accountability, giving the FBI a hard rest, meaning they're going to break that down, cut funding of it, and basically almost eliminate that. They want to enforce immigration laws. And they say this in a piece to where saying how they're going to enforce immigration laws. Or they're going to, Mr. Trump has already said he's going to have the largest immigration deportation in our nation's history. Just going to round up all the Black and brown people across this nation. No mention of those folks that have come over here legally and from Europe that overstayed their student visas or their tourist visas and stuff like that, because they're not Black and brown. They don't fall under the Black and brown categories. They are going to be able to stay, but Black and brown people have to go. So we also know that Mr. Trump is a stone cold racist, and the Heritage organization is basically a right-wing racist organization that is skewed against immigration and what it means. They're going to break up the Department of Education, which they say they want to strengthen educational freedom and enhance parental rights in education and protect taxpayers from student loan forgiveness, meaning all the student loan forgiveness that President Biden has given, that stops on day one. That stops on day one. So all of you that got what you got from student loan forgiveness, even the ones that are set out by law, meaning if I work in the public sector for 10 years, paid on my loans, that I would get some partial or full student loan repayment, that actually stops too. So all these people out there that are getting an education that's got federally backed loans, there's no chance of you ever getting that stuff paid back, even if it's by the organization. I mean, by the federal government, has been guaranteed to you over the last few decades. Because one, they are anti-education. The other piece is they want to get rid of the Department of Education, take that money and give it straight to the states in block grants. What does that mean? What that means is you will have a two-tiered educational system in this country. You also know that they don't value higher education past the 12th grade. Because if I keep you dumb, you keep voting for me. Keep you dumb and keep voting for me. So if you still want to get a great education, you have to come up north and go to one of the blue states and go to college to have a comprehensive education, because you go back to the schools like in what they're doing in Texas and in Florida, where all the DEI programs and woke programs, what they call all base, which is basically a veiled threat and to affirmative action, and anything that's is covered by affirmative action and is racially tinged against those programs. You'll have that nationwide in our nation's educational system, you'll see going back, you'll see where all these right-wing folks are showing up these at the school boards and saying you can't do this. They'll take one case where a transgender student wants to play a sport, and you'll go back to the same old debates of the bathroom debates, like they're coming, in hordes from Honduras. You'll go back to that, and you'll go back to book banning and any discussions of anything about race and slavery will be wiped out of our consciousness and our education across this country. What say you?
Yeah, well, let me welcome Louis Bracy in, and welcome Louis, and had a hard time getting you in, but you are here now, and I'll let you. I know you've been listening to the Colonel, and I'll let you respond or give your take on that. But before you do that, what I saw over the weekend, I might want you to mention who you ran into up there in DC over the weekend. I know it was a surprise to you, but you had the opportunity to run into some people there and tell them about your experience. So briefly talk about that, and then we'll get back to the subject.
How you doing, Colonel? It's nice seeing you again.
Yes.
I would tell you, you guys would not, you would have to be there to see the expression on my face when I walked into the Howard University School of Social Work. That's where they had the seminars at, and that's where they had the training for the young people. Yeah. And when I saw Portsmouth on their shirts, they all came in with blue Portsmouth shirts on. I said, "Y'all from Portsmouth?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "What school y'all from?" I see Knockham. My head almost blew out, and the kids was there for the Upward Bound program. And Colonel, everybody knows Slim. All of the chaperones knew you. There was a Mr. Bland that was there. There was a Miss Kaplan that was there. There was a Mr. Brown. Bottom line is, I say, y'all know James Overton? They said, yes, we do. I said, well, as soon as you get back, you're going to have to give them a call, because we need to have these kids highlighted for the great things that they're doing in their academic achievement. So, like I said, I went there to support a buddy of mine who worked with the U.S. Marshal Service, and he worked during the most dangerous times of U.S. Marshal Service. And we met in a strange way. But the bottom line is, for the sake of time, is I came to support him because his lecture was going to be on police accountability and how you should conduct yourself. And if you wanted a career in law enforcement, he was there to tell the kids about the best way to go about doing it. So I went there to support him. But when I saw that my people were there, that's what Captain was saying. I said, these are my people here. And I went through the history of being the last graduating class and the best graduating class, by the way. You know, I think you agree with me on that, Marshal Smith. We were the best graduating class ever. And I kept rubbing that in to the people that graduated in 76 and 78. And I think the last person they graduated from Craddock in 89. So I had a good job giving them the rub. And but the point was that it was a fantastic surprise. It made my day. And be honest, I couldn't sleep for the next 24 hours. I was so enthused, and the young people were so they were so ready. And I said, you know why you're ready? You're ready because you went to R.C. Knockham High School. And I kept emphasizing that if you don't appreciate it now, you appreciate it later. Yeah.
So I guess that was one of the college tours or something like that. And what group brought them there? Do you know what the name of the group was?
Yes, there was the counselors from the school.
Oh, okay.
The guy, one of the chaperones was a short gentleman. He said he's a chaplain at the school.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a chaplain at the school, and they were all from the Upward Bound program at RC Knockham. You know, all the kids that's getting ready to matriculate into a college. And so, you know, they had the counselors there, to, you know, parent chaperones, and then there were other kids there from other schools, but the majority of them was from Knockham, which is what I like, you know. Oh, I got to tell you this one quick thing real quick. One of the chaperones graduated from Wilson in 1982. And she said, "Why are you picking on Wilson?" I say, "You know why?" And she laughed at it. So she understood what I was saying.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks. I knew that was a shot to you, but it was a good shot, so we appreciate that. But okay, you've been listening to the Colonel. Colonel, while I was trying to get you on, Colonel Gabe, you know, he's been talking about, you know, this Project 2025, and you know, we talked about it one time on the show sometime back, and how they are ready, or they already have their agenda down, you know, with the 4 pillars, you know, that's the basis for the actual project, the policy agenda, personnel database, training, which, and I say training, you know, they're gonna get in here. They're gonna get in here with that, and 180-day playbook. Once, like they say, once the president gets in there, January 20th. After January 20th, they're gonna hit the ground running with their 180 days, which they'll probably try to complete most of their agenda, or most of it be appointing the right people in the right places, you know, where they'll have the control to do what they want to do. So,
well, I'm gonna tell you, you have the brilliant Colonel on his show, who was, well, I was, like I said, I was listening because I really don't understand what was going on, but as soon as it popped up just then, you know, on the email, wasn't there before. But I was listening, and the Colonel was on cylinder. He was on. I have a 4-cylinder car. Some people still have 6 cylinders. The Colonel was on all 6 cylinders in what he was saying. Oh man, I'm gonna tell you something. This situation with, and I'm trying not to use a lot of French, but I read the whole 2025 thing, and I was wondering if I should have shot myself for even reading it, because it damaged my brain.
Glad you read it.
It damaged my brain just to read it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because you got to keep in mind, he has Uncle Tom's signing off on these things. These people are sitting in the room with him. Well, let me change that. With Stephen Miller, who is a confirmed Nazi, period, and that crazy Steve Bannon, who is completely unhinged. I mean, if you ever watch his show,
The War Room,
I don't understand. Let me put it this way. If Louis Farrakhan talked the kind of crap that those people talk on them show, Louis Farrakhan would be in prison. Why they not? Because it's not freedom of speech. Because they go beyond freedom of speech, which is what pisses me off so much, dealing with this justice system, so-called justice system that we have now. Because if you understand anything about the law, freedom of speech has a balance. These people have way exceeded it, and they're still not in prison. They come out and say exactly what they're going to do. And this is the thing about the 2025 report. They're not lying. They are telling you exactly what they're going to do. And the Colonel read it. I'm sure he's read it. They're going to tell you day by day, minute by minute, what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. They're not even camouflaging.
No, not even, and we talked about that many times on the show, how they're telling us or telling everybody exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah,
exactly. And we still, and let me bring up this point. I saw it was a talk show host, Karen Hunter. She was asking one of the Trump supporters called in her show, and she said, "Let me ask you. You know, y'all keep saying make America great again," and she just wanted. I just want to ask you, as a Trump supporter, when was it ever? Y'all say again. When was it ever great? And she mentioned, she said George Washington. She said, "Oh, okay, you're talking about when George Washington owned slaves and even went after slaves that ran away from you, or are you talking about during the Civil War when it was the country fighting each other? Are you talking about right after Reconstruction when the Jim Crow laws came in?" And she named all these times, and the person, of course, couldn't,
They can never answer
because they always try to turn around and ask you questions, and then
that's what they do.
Bring up Biden and stuff like that. And most of them cannot articulate why they're even following the guy or what they mean by making America great again, and trying to pick out those different times in history, and we know what it means. Y'all want to go back to when y'all had control over us. We
That's
know what you're saying, but y'all either can't say it or afraid to say exactly because, when you break it down, making America great again, when was it ever great for everybody?
It has never been,
just
period.
During your basic history,
It has never been. That's why when you had the lady from the Indian tribe on last week, I wish I could have got some of those questions read to her, because there's never been great people. And I wanted her to tell you the history about, even in our home state of Virginia, what they did to the Indians, Native Americans there, and how they lucky. I wanted her to tell one of the battles, because if you understand our history that they never taught us in school. You remember that old yellow history book that we had in elementary school, and with all the lies about Virginia Dare and try to make us think these people were so highfalutin, most of them just whores and pimps. But the Native American tribe had a chance to eliminate them in 3 battles. In 3 battles, they had a chance, but they kept letting them survive for some reason. Powhatan could have eliminated them. At one time, there was only like 6 or 7 colonists left at some point until the next ship came in. But I'm just saying, but then we saw from that point on what they did to our Native American brothers and sisters all up and down the East Coast. They keep acting like those people were savages. These people had their own communications and things. They had their own way of dealing with each other tribe, even though they wasn't good at doing it. But the point is, they existed. They were human beings, and they were systematically decimated from east, west, north, and south for the purpose to make the white man rich in this country. Now, so it was never great for the Native Americans. It was never great for us from 1619 until even to this day. It's still not great. It's not great for us. So America has never been great at any point of its time. And we would never have enough time, with never enough shows for me to tell y'all the things that's bad that they have done to this country. And that those people, whenever you watch, I send you some of those things. When they ask these Trump supporters very simple, basic questions, and they can never answer the thing because they have these talking points. And if I could tell you a short story real quick about one of the Uncle Toms that I confronted locally that I've been having these wars with, I sent you some of that stuff. He goes to Bowie State University, and I called his name out. His name is Leslie Stanton. He's one of these Republican apologists, I call him. He goes to Bowie State campus and he goes and talks to the black kids about voting and things of that nature. Now he's an alleged Democrat, but I caught him with the Trump talking points sitting in his passenger seat of his car, and he tried to cover it up. And I say, MF, don't be trying to cover it up. I've been trying to blow you up forever because you just a sellout. But they don't want to confront him because of his family lineage in Annapolis City. But the talking points that I went through with Armstrong Williams, both of you know who Armstrong Williams is.
Yeah.
The talking points they call it the talking points to black people from the 2016 election. There's a pamphlet is about this thick, about 15 pages. Talking points to black people. Number one talking point is keep hammering the Clinton-Biden crime bill. Okay. And that's what you have these Negroes, these N-words for Trump in Atlanta on their shirt, those stupid fools walking around with their shirt. Now, how stupid are you to have a shirt on your shirt saying, because you know I've never used the N-word in my life and I never will. But you know what I want to say. N-words for Trump, you know, on your shirt. Now, why would you call yourself that on national TV and proud of it? What the hell is wrong with you? And I kept saying, where's your mama? Where's your daddy? Where's your supreme uncle like me? In my family, I'm the supreme uncle. You walk around that stuff with me, you get slapped on the head. You ask my nephew what happened when he told me he voted for Trump the first time. You ask him where his Thanksgiving dinner ended up being.
Yeah,
you see, because we need to talk to people like that.
In the garage, I remember you told us that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you to this, since you're in the military and talking about this Project 25 thing, you know, and looks like they covered all the bases, you know, everything in this plan. You know, what plans, have you seen anything within that? What plans do they have for the military? I mean, is it going to be status quo, or they plan on going into the military and being able to use the martial law whenever they think they need it?
Colonel, if I say anything, if I'm lying about anything, I want you to correct me.
Yeah.
What they did is they already had the plan before. In North Carolina, they had a regiment set up to come in if Trump was able to get across this fake war plan that he had, that we in danger because of the Iranian, because he tried to start a war with Iran the whole time he was in office. Okay. And so he was going to use in the end of his administration that the War Powers Act. And you know, the War Powers Act is that the president have almost unfiltered constitution control. He could suspend the constitution and all those things. So he wanted to bring in a fake war. And if he couldn't do that, he was going to use the other part of it, was the Insurrections Act, to his benefit, to try to say that the Black Lives Matter and some of the other people was causing so much trouble. Now I got to take over the country. And he had a unit ready to go in North Carolina. Am I right, Colonel?
Yes.
He had a unit ready to go. And he had a general ready to bring these people in. And that's what they're going to do. They were going to suspend the local law enforcement. They were going to surround the Capitol and put this regiment in and install themselves basically as a dictatorship. Under the 2025 plan, to answer your question directly, is they're going to walk in with this. He already have sub-generals and sub-lieutenant, colonels already there from when he was there 4 years ago. Because if the colonel know what I'm talking about, you always have under people.
I think Colonel mentioned that kind of, I think it was last week or the last time you were on the show, Colonel, you mentioned about, as you were talking about the president of Hampton University. And one of the reasons why when he came out when he did, because, you know, I mean, you can tell that story again, because it probably has something to do, sort of ties in with what Lewis is saying now, you know, when he came out. Because he was in line, wasn't he, to be one of those top generals there?
Well, he's 4-star general, and he is the head. He was the head of all logistics for the military, for the Army, all of it. So when they were rolling out the vaccine, which was a big project to get the vaccines from the manufacturers to roll it out throughout the nation. Who does more logistics than anybody else in this country is the Department of the Army.
Mm-hmm.
He would have been head of that program and it would have been seamless. But him being black, he could not be in front of the TV or anything like that. And they could not have a black person stand up there on TV next to Trump. So they went out and got this 3-star general who was almost clueless on how it is, but he was got up there and he basically cowed down to Trump, saying "you the best," and gave him a 4th star, which he really didn't get promoted for, but he was just picked up by Trump and was given this, and that's why you saw the failure of the vaccine rollout during the Trump administration. And it didn't get straight until Biden came in there and made all the wheels and the trains and everything else run on time. And that's why we turned the curve around to where only 1 million people died because of Trump. 1 million people died because of Trump and his fallacies and everything else. Then, and we turned the curve, and that's why we have great. We got the vaccines, we got the boosters, we got great healthcare, and we got everything. We've turned that page on the pandemic, even though it's not a pandemic anymore. But the virus is still out there, but it's not talked about. But it's because of that, that racial thing that you could have saved all these people, but because and you turn the military, you can't have a black guy running the military, and basically you just let Americans die. So
yeah, I wanted you to. Oh, I'm sorry. I want you to bring that up because I always want people to go back, because we're so quick to forget what happened in the past.
Yeah.
And as the future goes on, and we're talking about this project 2025, that same scenario, that same thing can happen again if these guys are put in charge. Because they didn't handle it well there. Because Trump has no. And he doesn't listen to anybody. He has no knowledge of how the military is structured. He's just going to find somebody, a yes person, and yes, they are in the military too. And just like you explained how that happened, it'll happen again if you give these guys an opportunity, because it's already in their plans. Like Lewis was saying, what they want to do with the military, which is outside of their normal way of operating.
Let me expand on something else on this thing real quick that the colonel also know about.
Let the colonel finish his point.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be worse this time, because now they learn how the gears of government works. This time, Trump has already said they're going to call up on day one the National Guard, Southern National Guards from Texas, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, and Arkansas, and all those Confederate National Guards, and they are going to put them in the blue cities, and they will have, and they'll be on your street corners with their tanks and jeeps and machine guns and all these weapons of wars. And so he already knows that they're going to be protesting out there against him, just like last time when he takes over the office of the presidency. But they will have the right to round up everybody, especially people of color, that's out there protesting, and put them in these concentration camps, and within 48 to 72 hours be deported to your motherland, regardless of your citizenship. They're going to deport you.
And people need to remember they kind of did that. You remember when they were going around in those vans picking up people?
Yeah.
Unmarked vans, and just picking up people that were protesting.
So
how quick we forget these things that's happening, and all of us right in our face, but we don't want to pay attention. And even though we enjoyed, and you touched on this, we enjoyed the game last night, but and there's nothing wrong with enjoying games and sports, but you also have to make sure you're paying attention to what else is happening, and not really what's happening on Young and the Restless, and who died, and who's sleeping with who on Young and the Restless, and all those shows. It's all good. Entertainment is good, but you got to reserve some space in your mind, in your brain, for what's really happening out there. So
hey, imagine this, Bracy. Imagine this. You go to the store. You and Slim are going to the store, and you go into Aldi's or Walmart or whatever, and you get swept up because you're black, and you we go back to America Great Again, that you looked in the cashier's eyes who is white, and they say, you didn't bow down to me, you didn't look at my shoes, and you looked in their face. And so that National Guard sweeps both of y'all up, and they don't tell Benet where you're at. They take your phone away, Slim. You and Bracy are on a plane down in out of Norfolk in a C-130, one of the big airplanes, and you end up in 72 hours, you're dropped off in Zambia somewhere. No money, no phone, no ID, no nothing. What are
No
you going
papers.
You know what? Whenever I'm on this show, I'm always so fired up. Y'all saw me rubbing my hands like this because he was hitting on so many things I wanted to jump on, you know. And what the colonel is saying is 100% exactly what they have in this plan. And when you mentioned, James, when you mentioned doing the riots in Seattle, that was their test zone. When they brought in all those guys in black outfits with no tags on, no name tags, no unit identification, it was just all in black. That's part of that unit that would have came out of North Carolina. And what they did is they went and found what I like to call unconscious Negroes and crackers to serve in this unit. They picked them from all kinds of places, and Colonel knows what I'm talking about. They picked them from prisons, prison guards. They picked them from different military units, and they picked them all because they had this psychological profile that they had put on certain people that they know they can get to do what they want them to do. All of these people was picked from all different sections, so all different sections of the country, because that's something that Miller and Bannon has set up a long time ago. They've been way ahead of a lot of people. And so what happened is when they wanted to come up with this black booted thug group of people that they had, they found generals, colonels, sergeant majors, and all those people like that was in line with that weird Trump way of thinking. Those were the people that they put in charge of these units in DC, at the Pentagon. And even General Milley, if you listen to his testimony real close, he was saying, yes, we know about those people, but we had them in check. Isn't that what you say, Colonel?
Yeah.
He had them in check. So when I'm saying that these people are still there because they weren't put out of the military as I suggested they should have been done. Everyone connected to Trump should have been put out of the military. They should have been brought back. They should have been in Leavenworth and face a full court martial, every single one of them. And they're still around. They're still in the Pentagon. And you got people who work with Trump who still have not been brought before a full court martial. And the colonel knows what I'm talking about. If you're a field grade officer, you can be brought back to be court martial in the service. And they still haven't done that. But these are the people who set up. And these are the people who are still in the Pentagon. Because what Trump did in the last days of his administration, he demoted, or removed or put in different positions, people he knew was going to go along with the plan. The last person that was in charge of the Department of Defense and in the Pentagon was the most unqualified people you have ever seen on this earth.
Yeah.
The most unqualified. Now look at who he put in front of the FAA at one time. His own damn pilot, come on. That's what he did. That's what he did. That's what he'll do. And that's what the 2025 thing. They already have a chart. They even have the chart. You can see it. You can find it yourself. They got a whole pecking order chart of how they're going to do everything. They didn't know how to do things in the first administration. They know how to do it now. So as the colonel said, and I want to beat a dead horse because people need to listen. They already have every single T crossed, every single I dotted. They know exactly what they want to do, and they have the people in place to do it. Now, my problem I have with this, and then I'm going to be quiet for a second. My problem I have with this is that people at the Pentagon know this. So will you please tell me, Colonel, can you give some enlightenment to me, and since they know it, and they got these people's name to do it, what is wrong with Merrick Garland? Why aren't these people in prison for planning insurrection again, documenting everything? Why are these people still walking the streets of the United States of America?
Merrick Garland is probably one of the weakest attorney generals we've had in our country's history. He has turned his back on in an idea of trying to be apolitical. He has let Trump and all his accolades get away with murder. And so the minute that the election over and when Biden wins, I'm hoping he wins, he needs to fire Merrick Garland and tell him to hit the streets. Your service is no longer needed. We need to get a real attorney general. So saying that.
But you do agree with me.
Yes,
These people, since they're planning it already, they have the documents already. That's right in the Constitution. It says it. Now, you see, the problem was that I went to R.C. Knockham High School and I learned how to read. And when you read the Constitution says that you can be charged even if it's a hint, H-I-N-T, a hint of an insurrection. Now, these people are not only beyond a hint, they have the structure, they have the armament, they know where they're going to get the ammunition from, they know who they're going to put in charge, and they saying what they're going to do to us. And you laid it right out. What they're going to do to black people, you laid it all out. What they're going to say is that you jogging, James Overton, you jogging. Now, how many people carry out of you with them when they're jogging? They could drive up while you jogging and throw your 6'2" ass in a white van or maybe a black van, take you to the camp. Don't never tell nobody you there.
Yeah.
If you act up, what's going to happen to you? We'll never see you again. They have these plans. And when we find Negroes, Uncle Tom sellout, Sambo Coons working for this administration, knowing this, and they get on stage and admit it. Mm-hmm. We as an African Americans, we should be able to deal with our own people like that. You know what they did in South Africa? I know people don't like me talking like this, but I don't have no problem with it. You can come get me. They need a South African necktie. And if we do a couple of those, they'll get the lesson. Somebody will get the point. Yeah. But until we decide as African Americans, we should have 5 or 10 things that all African Americans should agree on. 5 or 10 things. We don't have, you can say Republican, I don't care. But a race of people that's really about themselves and really understands how we have to live in this country, we should have at least 5 or 10 things that all African Americans should agree on. In Israel, for example, do you have all that problem you see it happening in Israel? But you go to Israel, there's one thing that they all agree on, that Israel have a right to exist. That's number one. So if you're Israeli, that's what you got to agree to and adhere by. 92% of all Israelis believe in that they have a right to exist. That's number one. They have a right to defend themselves. That's a number 2. They have a right to do economics and commerce. That's a number 3. You know, so there are certain things they can hate Netanyahu all they want. But when he did what he did in the beginning, they was all behind him because it came under that first thing. We got a right to defend ourselves. Now, they don't went too far. Don't get me wrong, because I've been with the Palestinians since 1966. I understand that thing. I know how Israel came into existence. So I understand the Palestinian thing. Now, Israel went too damn far. But Hamas is not their answer. So, but the point I want to get to is that is a nation that don't play with certain things. And we should be a nation amongst ourselves in this country with things that we won't tolerate. And one of the things we should not tolerate is people like Candace Owens wanting to come back to us now after she talked about us like a dog for 10 years. We don't need people like that in our society. We don't need the Paris Denards that's walking around here right now as we speak, planning the next rally for Trump. We don't need people where Trump can say, that's my African American in the audience. Do you know how embarrassing that is in this day and time for somebody to be laughing and showing his buck teeth? And then you have this big Tim Scott from South Carolina with his buck teeth looking just like a real Sambo slave coon talking about, oh, I just love you, Master Trump. I just love you. Come on, black people. We got to get rid of those kind of people. I'm sorry. We get rid of them, or we at least got to put them verbally in check so that every African American know this is somebody that we don't need in our community and they have no credibility. That's one of the things that I keep talking to you about your ministers. those are the people who we got to have out here putting our people in check and putting them in check righteously. If you won't put them in check righteously, then if something else happened to them, then whose fault is it?
Yeah. So
y'all got me fired up.
So the other thing too, before you get that, you know, we talked about the military. A lot of things that haven't hit the news yet, and they covered it up. After Trump lost, he had already wanted throughout his first 4 years is to get us out of NATO. And so when he lost the election, he had already told the Pentagon saying, I want all of the troops out of South Korea and Europe, which would have been a major, and there's no way we could have done that in the time frame that he wanted to. He just said, I just want all the troops out, leave everything there and get them out, bring everybody home. And I'm going to try, like Bracy said, I'm going to try to start this war with Iran, but he never got around to doing that because Iran, you know, held their powder and they knew what he was going to do. And so they never gave him an excuse to attack them. We look at Afghanistan. He actually pulled all the troops out of there, got it down from 10,000 down to 2,500. It was actually lower than 2,500 troops, which they couldn't have held. And instead of telling all the 25,000 plus dual citizen or citizens in Afghanistan that we were withdrawing, he stopped all the visas for them folks to get out. So Biden says, okay, this ball and the train is already pulled out. There's no way I can get by and put more troops in there because I'm down to less than 2,500 people there to keep this government going. I need to continue this, and says, okay, this is the date we got to get out of here. And then they find out later on that the State Department saying, how come you didn't evacuate all these American citizens? Well, because the Trump administration had already put in paperwork saying none of those people will get out of there, and stopped all the visa approvals to get out of there. And so that's why you had all this mess happen at the airport, because it came down to the date you had to get out, which we had a date. Biden to give them a date, but it takes time for you to discover all the crap that Trump and his boys did to gum up the system. And he couldn't go back on his word and says, I have to put in another, redeploy another 10,000 people to get it out there safely. That's why we had to dump and run all this equipment and everything back into Afghanistan.
Tell what he did in Syria. Tell the public what he did in Syria.
Basically, being pro-Russian, he did the same thing with them. Is get out of there. We had troops there too. Got to get out of there. Got to go. Just leave your equipment and get out of there. Just leave. Don't care what's happening there. And so the Assad regime got a boost from him, because we were sort of keeping them down, and the Turks were there, and they had this war in there, and the Russians were bumping off people too. But since the Russians were there, we can't be there because Trump is pro-Russian. And so get out of there. Just like everything out in the Middle East, we had to go because it's America first.
Let me ask you gentlemen this, and because I respect, you've been in the military and you've been in many places in the United States and abroad. So, and you've seen a lot of things, and a lot of times when you're in the military, you have to suppress some of the things that you see as far as speaking on it. But you're able to do that now. And what bothers me the most about all this propaganda, and that's problematic for me, that using that word in this day and time, because remember, you used to watch all those old war movies, and mysteries about what was going on in Nazi Germany and all that. You heard that word propaganda being used because it was just misinformation being spread in order for them to get what they wanted. So you heard that word a lot now. And what disturbs me the most is some of our young people that are falling for the propaganda because of the way social media is today. You don't know what's really legit and what's not, and a news thing can start today and look just like it's real news, or it's the regular news and it's really fake. So what would you say to the young people to try to get them at least to pay attention to what's going on? Sometimes you got to watch Fox. Sometimes you got to watch Steve Bannon show, the War Room, just to know what they're saying. Because even though we say they're putting it out there in our face, a lot of people are still blind to it. A lot of people are not seeing it because, like I said earlier, they're watching, The Bachelor, they're watching all this other crap and not paying attention to things that's going to affect their future and the future of their children and their next generation. So how would you, if you had on the talking circuit and going throughout the United States, because you all realize what they're trying to do, but you have that audience to talk to young people or even older people. How would you advise them to at least, or what would you say to them to at least to get them to pay attention what's going on, right in their face? Just pay attention, and maybe they'll make up their mind on their own. And like you say, some of those Trumpers you're not going to get to anyway because they're in a cult, and people in a cult you just can't get to. But it's other people out there, if they just pay attention or know where to go to get the right information.
I'll let the Colonel speak on that. I'll let the Colonel speak first, then I'll follow him.
Okay.
Well, what? Even past that, some of these Trumpers, well, most of the Trumpers, there's nothing to say. They're already lost. They're part of the cult. And you would just have to say they're lost to society and let them go on, because you can't explain what is right and wrong, and apples to the apples is doesn't right there. But what scares me is the apathy of young people, especially young Black folks. I was in J.C. Penney's Saturday and went up there to cashier and talked to this young girl. She was out there, checking me out and stuff like that, taking my money and stuff like that. And then I asked her, are you registered to vote? She says, yes. Are you going to vote? Well, I didn't vote in the last election, and that means the last presidential election. So she never votes in the other two in the midterm, and say, basically, are you going to vote in the 24 election? It says, I don't know. And her quote was, I am not political yet. I laid it on her. I laid it on her. And basically, when I got done with her, she had to slither, and she actually left the front, and went and hid behind this other girl. Because one, I had to explain to her the stupidity of that answer, for one, and what she and how she had been slapping her ancestry, her mother, father, grandmother, and grandfather, and all the way back, turned her back on all those people in her family because of the stupidity that she had and the stupidity of the answer that she had for me. And I said, do you care about all these issues? And I ran them all down: women's health care, voting rights, economic freedoms, and I ran everything down. And I put it down. This is what the Republican Party wants, and this is what the Democratic Party wants. And she finally put two and two together, but found out, she discovered, yes, I'm just dumb. She was just dumb, and she realized she was just dumb to what's going on. Like things that are happening in society, and the only power that she has is the power to vote. She's giving that away, and then so that's why she had to go behind somebody else and hide.
But she probably could tell you what's going on with Diddy.
Oh yeah, oh Lord, yeah. She had her iPhone out and a big old iPhone in the back. But she's happy to make work days 24 hours in J.C. Penney's and make that little bit of money. And that is it in her life. And she's reached the top of her economic status for the rest of her life. And she'll fool some guy to marry her or whatever. But yeah, I just had to shake my head.
So there lies the challenge, Colonel. I'm saying, even if you had that opportunity, you would have to cross the United States 10 times to capture all the people that are just like that young lady you ran into.
Yeah.
And then there's no guarantee you will get to them, especially when the major news channels lead off with a story about Diddy.
Yeah.
Well, like, whenever I'm on this show, I never come with notes because I already have it all up in here. Anything you want to talk about, I already have a catalog. So when you ready to ask a question, I'm always ready to give you a direct answer to what you ask. How can we get to them? Okay, I broke it down to 3 things, and I talk about this locally. I want to start with the government, media, and the church. Now, the people like he was speaking to, when I go into the public housing projects and stuff, the door knock, and I went into a person who walks to the door with a baby in their hands and say, well, I don't vote because the government don't do nothing for me. I say, aren't you living in public housing? Don't I see a WIC card on your desk? Don't you know that's all government? Don't you know that you are feeding your child from a government program that Black people fought for? For the sake of time, I'm going to skip, but you got it, right? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, so when you have people who relies on the government, I've always said the government has a role to deal with the folks who are unfortunate. Don't get me wrong, because I'm not putting down anybody that falls on hard times. I never have and I never will. But if you on hard times, you should understand who's saving you from being out there on the street. So I feel that the government has a role to teach the people about how government works and how it benefits you. How can you be a mother sitting in a public housing unit on welfare, on food stamps, on the WIC program, and you sit and tell me when I knock on the door and ask you, are you going to vote? And you're going to tell me I don't vote because they don't do nothing for me. That shows you a ghetto mentality, number one, because I have no problem saying that. It's a ghetto mentality. And the government fell in their role to educate the people and the media. Now, I've been trying to get the Democratic Party locally, and y'all should try to do the same thing, is to reach the young people where they are. And you mentioned she already had her cell phone out, and what you mentioned, they can tell you everything about Diddy. They can tell you everything about Beyonce. They can even tell you her size of her panties. Now, she got a nice butt, and I love her butt, but I don't know what size her panties are, but they do. That's how much they know about these celebrities. If you can get so much into somebody that you know what size their underwear is, that's too much information. And you can tell me you can't turn around to find out the necessary to vote. So I've been trying to get them for the longest time to have a media program dedicated where young people are so we can talk to them in their own world. I mean, they're not bad. They're not academically stupid, but they are politically, as I say, dumbasses. I want to have a course on don't be a dumbass. And so we need to reach these young people where they are. If they're in the media world, that's where we have to get it. And my last one, it's not my last one, but I'm doing it for the sake of time, is my favorite subject is the church. They are really hurting us. They're really hurting us. They have a mass audience every week. Who has more Black people in their environment? Sometimes twice a week if they go to Wednesday service. But every Sunday, we got these people, we have these ministers who don't want to step to the plate. Now, I sent you some stuff about, I'm in a war now here locally. They mad as hell at me. They looking at me side-eye because I blasted them full force. we cannot continue to allow our ministers in our Black communities to not step to the plate when it comes to what's going on with the political world, social world. They still interested in passing the plate on every Sunday. And they do some good things, don't get me wrong, because they do good things. They do good things with kids. They do good things with charity. They do a lot of good things. But politically, they have a role to play. And I met a Christian woman to this day. She don't vote, nothing. I leave it all to Jesus. Jesus takes care of everything for me. I leave it all to Jesus. I said, let me ask you a question. How do you get here? Well, that's my, I drive the SUV. I said, is it gas or electric? Oh, it's gas. What road did you come on? Did you come on this road here? Which is WBNA road, local road here? Yeah, they said, don't you know your taxes pay for that road that you drove on? Your car that has the gas in comes out of your money, out of your income check and everything. So I said, when you people, and I say this, you people, they get mad when I call them you people. They say, what do you mean you people? I'm saying, you dumbass people, because here it is, you don't have the luxury of saying, I'm not political, when just by you driving to church, it's political.
Yeah.
You know, and when our ministers fail in their obligation to speak truth to power. Now, if your minister is not speaking truth to power, and I did a thing, I had one thing, I had people listen to 200 or 300 services over a 6 month period. Only 2 ministers said a damn thing about Donald Trump in their service, out of 600 services. Now, and that's just me, little old Louis Bracey. Now, what would it have been like if something else, if some people with a bigger, wider measure than I do? And so you see what I'm saying? The media, church, government, those are things that we got to use to our benefit to wake our people up, because there's nothing wrong with their brain cells. There's nothing wrong with their brain cells. But if we don't call people out, that's one of the things I get trouble with here locally, because I call people out. We need to call out these things. If our ministers are not stepping to the plate to let their congregation know, you do have a political obligation in the United States of America. You cannot sit here and lay it back and think Jesus is going to take care of your problems. God's going to take care of your problems. Neither one of them are coming to the earth to save us, because they told us what to do. It's in the Bible what to do. They're not supposed to come down here and do what we're supposed to do. So get off that crap. And that's all it is. All it is crap. But you can't get it past this one lady that I done talked to. She listened to me, but she said, I hear what you say, Brother Bracey, but God gonna take care of me. She walked to her car. Okay, I said, okay. And I noticed she walked to the car with a AARP cane. So
Okay. All right, we're gonna have to end now,
right
because, but we appreciate the guests. We appreciate you, Colonel, and Lewis, for being on today and speaking. We're going to continue to talk about this subject, and hopefully each time we talk about it, we'll catch somebody's ear, and at least that they'll rethink some of the things, or at least pay attention to what's going on, and open up their mind to see what's happening right in their face, right in plain sight. So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time. And remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share our shows on Facebook, and especially on our YouTube channel. We appreciate you. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Later.
okay, tell Leah, say I hope she feels better. Okay, I hope she's okay now.